Hello everyone, welcome to Tuesday Tea Time. I am home. I am in my sweet little cozy house and it is pouring rain outside. You can see my daughter's thoroughbred Can-Do out there in the rain. And I am going to do tea time from inside today. I feel fortunate that the horses are right outside, and every time the rain stops, I can duck outside and spend some time with them. But for tea time, it's better that we see Can-Do through the window, and I talk to you inside, out of the wind and the rain. So each week, I try and come up with a thing to talk about. And as I'm talking about this theory, I really like to stitch it into my personal experience because I feel like teaching is best done from personal experience. Welcome, Mariana. I'm glad you're here. It's fun, this sort of weekly gathering that I've started, and it's picked up steam. And I'll be honest, a lot of times I'm not really sure what I'm going to talk about. And I love that list that you guys have sent me of questions where I can go through the list in the morning and then I think, do I have some sort of personal experience that I can add to the question that someone's posed? So this week, the question that is sort of in the top of my mind, which is actually just something I came up with, but it seems really relevant to me today, is time away. So a lot of you guys know I spent the last couple of weeks in Portugal. I know, Sandra, I wish I was still in Portugal with you, but it's also good to be home, rain or no rain. Hi, Helen. Raining in Nelson too. Yep. I think that New Zealand has some similar weather to the Pacific Northwest sometimes. Hi, Rachel. So coming home, there's some interesting things that I noticed with my horses that I thought would be interesting to talk about. I was gone for about 2 weeks and I feel like it's the best thing I could have done. I feel clear and inspired, and I feel like my brain got a really good workout with teaching a clinic, and I have a really good perspective on everything. So I'm glad I went away and I came back. But there's a thing that happens with horses that's really interesting to me, and that is when you go away for a week or two, when you come back, you get a very clear perspective on how horses feel about things that you do. And what I find is that there's a really good feedback for me. If something I've been doing was in the tolerance stage of teaching, which means the horses were still kind of just holding it together. They're not sure about what we're doing yet. It's too new, too uncomfortable. If it's in that tolerance stage, when I go away, we will lose that skill. It won't be there when I get home. And that's good information for me to know. Because sometimes I think we're doing a lot better than we actually are. And if I get home and the skill that we were working on before I left is not there, that gives me a pretty good indication that the horse wasn't enjoying it quite as much as I thought they were. Now, if the skill that we're working on is in the acceptance phase, that means that the horse is undecided about how they feel about it. Usually it goes along with a very quiet expression on the horse's face. They're willing to do the task. They're not overreactive. They're not upset about it, but they're not really fully participating in it yet. And I find that if something is in the acceptance phase, when I get home, it will be very much the same as when I left. It will neither have improved nor declined. If I'm working on something and the horse is really involved and engaged and interested and enjoying the process, I find they actually make improvement while I'm away. And that's really fun to see. when I come home and I try that same skill again, if the horse is far better at it than when I left, I know that I left that skill with a really lovely feeling. And they've been thinking about it while I'm gone. And they've been processing it and working on it. And so that's always my goal. When I go away, it's a little bit of a test for me. I want to see in those 2 weeks that I'm gone, what does the horse think about? What do they process while I'm not there? The things that I've really brought all the way to an enjoyment level. And that's my goal. But that's, there's always stages to these things. There's going to be some skills that are still in the tolerance phase or still in the acceptance phase. So there were a couple things that happened with Ari and Atlas that were really interesting. The first thing is that I always say Ari is a horse that doesn't really need anyone. He doesn't really need his herd mates. He doesn't really need me. He'll wander off. He'll be in a completely different part of the pasture. It's like it doesn't really matter to him whether he's alone or not. And this is really unusual. So as that type of horse, he's been a little bit challenging for me to train because I feel like he doesn't really care whether I'm there or not. He doesn't really care what we do. He's fine with it. He has no objection, but he's not super enthusiastic, which means that it's really difficult to get to that enjoyment stage of learning where you feel like he's really engaged. He gets to the acceptance stage pretty easily where there's no overreaction, he's not bothered, but he's also not fully engaged. And so this has been a challenge over the time we've been working together. And what I found when I got home this last time is he claimed me. He claimed all of my attention. And he wanted more of my time and attention than anyone else in the herd. And that's the first time that has ever happened. So that tells me before I left, there was something I was doing about being with Ari that was starting to touch into the enjoyment phase enough that it dramatically improved in the time I was gone. And so he wanted to be with me. He wanted to be my companion. He wanted to do things with me. He put himself in my path. So wherever I walked, Ari was right there. He was saying, what's next? What are we going to do next? And he wanted to do things with me. So that's very different from when I left. And that tells me that I had really gotten past the acceptance and into the enjoyment in our being together in a new way. And it dramatically improved while I was gone. And so that was probably the most exciting thing. Let's see, Fonda says, so glad you're back and was looking forward to seeing you and hearing about the trip, but I can't watch. I get the message. We're having trouble playing this video. It's occurred a few times before. I'll have to wait till you post it. I will post it again soon, Fonda. I'm glad you tried to join us. Oh, and hi, Florentine, and hi, Shelley, and hi, Kathy. Got a good group gathering here. And hi, Regina. So that was sort of my most exciting thing when I got home, is that there was a dramatic improvement in how much Ari wanted to participate. And that felt really good, that I had mastered something there before I left. The interesting part with Atlas was doing really, really, really well when I left. And he was really engaged. So I thought he was really enjoying everything we were doing. When I got back and I started to handle him in the same ways that I had been, he seemed much more hesitant. And I feel like this is a familiar feeling to me. I remember being a child and going to a big carnival, which was really exciting. And I remember playing with my friends and laughing and running and doing so many fun things. And it was a really great experience as a child, but it was also really overwhelming. I was fully engaged, fully participating, having a great time. And yet, you know, if you had asked me the next day if I wanted to go do it again, I would have said no. It was too much. And I feel like that's a little bit where I'm at with Atlas. When I left, he was fully engaged. He was really interested. He was making huge progress. And to be honest, I took advantage of that, and we did some new things because I felt like I really wanted to take advantage of that. But it was all a little too much. And so when I got back, I still can do everything that we did before. I can still put my hands all the same places. I can still touch him all the same ways. We haven't lost any progress in the physical things we can do, but we've lost some progress in terms of his thinking, engaged, enjoyment state. And that's good information for me. That tells me Atlas was in the tolerance stage of doing so many things. The level of activity, of action that we had, even though he was enjoying it, it was overwhelming for him. And so when I got back, that's the feedback I got from him, is that yes, we could still do it, but it's going to take him a little while to build up that strength. I think of thinking as a muscle. And so when horses really learn to think and engage and practice things with you in a fully present, engaged way, it works that muscle, and that muscle can get tired. So even though he was fully enjoying it when I left, it was just like a little too much. And that's good information for me. I'll go back now and see if we can do the new things that we were doing in the week before I left, but then retreat and do some comfortable things so that that thinking, engaged muscle of his brain gets some rest time and doesn't get so overwhelmed by how many new things we can do all at once. So let's see. Kathy says, hi, Elsa. Do you ever have days when you're full of disappointment because the horse totally gets what she's responsible for, and yet she's not taking her responsibility for it? I got quite upset today because Willa just would not take responsibility for her own relaxation. Kathy, I see it very differently than that. I feel like horses are and one thing only, they want to be comfortable. And taking responsibility for something is only going to work if they feel like that leads to their comfort. And the problem with relaxation is if horses don't feel safe enough to be relaxed, they don't feel like it's a good idea to relax. So even if they know how to do it, if they feel like it would be more comfortable to be on edge or to be prepared for something bad to happen, because it might, it feels more responsible to the horse to be not relaxed. Now, you and I may know that relaxation is the best plan, but the horse has their own opinion about it. And that's the thing about freedom-based training, is they are free to have their own opinion and their own thoughts and feelings about this. So if they don't feel safe enough to relax, they're not going to relax, even if they know how. It doesn't seem like the right choice for them. And so we have to look at the cause underneath the symptom. Why do they not feel safe enough? And how do we change that so that they feel safe enough that they can then do the things they know how to do? So I hope that sheds some light on it, Kathy. Katerina says, hello, Elsa, listening to you while walking the dogs in the sunshine. Much love to all of you in America. Thank you, Katerina. Much love to you in New Zealand, too. Rhonda says, this is really interesting. I've been thinking a lot about sensory overload in researching lots about trauma and autism. Yeah, sensory overload is a big deal, and it adds an interesting twist on it, you know, in terms of enjoyment. You can really enjoy something and also be overwhelmed. And I guess that's what I wanted to talk about in this tea time, was that just because you're in a state of enjoyment doesn't mean you're ready to do it again. And I think that's a really key piece that we need to keep track of with our horses. Yes, we want to bring them to a state of enjoyment. And yes, we want that to soak in their brain and have them think about it and have them want more and more. But there is a strengthening process that happens where they have to get strong enough to feel that enjoyment without feeling overwhelmed. And I feel like that's where I am at with Atlas right now. So hopefully next time I go away, if he's in that state of enjoyment, I will not push so hard. Maybe back off and do some things that are a little bit more deep in his comfort zone and not push the edge of what's possible just because he seems to be having a good time. And I think that's a piece of advice we could all take home. When the horses are really enjoying something, we have to figure out how to stop asking for more before they're overwhelmed. When they can still want more, instead of wanting less just because it's too much overload. And, through practice, they develop more capacity for joy, for enjoyment, for thought, for thinking, for that activation that's really good. They'll develop more capacity, and as they develop more capacity, they won't be overwhelmed. But it's a process. It's like a muscle. You got to make it stronger a little at a time. Shelley says, it's like going to a concert, exhilarating, but you don't want to do it every day. That's a good example, Shelley. Exactly. And so, our horses have these moments where, I'll be honest, when I left for my trip, I thought, I have set Atlas up for the best possible advancement because he's enjoying things so much. Right before I leave, I expected to sort of see huge leaps of improvement when I got home. But I didn't take into account he'd already had huge leaps of improvement in the week before I left. And so his huge leaps of improvement in the week before I left led him to being a little overwhelmed by his own enjoyment. And that's sort of an interesting twist to the story. So I'm going to leave you guys with that thought. Tolerance, acceptance, enjoyment. They're all stages in the learning process. And when you take some time off in a state of tolerance, you're going to get a backslide. It's going to be less good when you meet again. If you take some time off in the acceptance stage, it's pretty much going to be the same as when you left it. And if you take some time off in the enjoyment stage, you're going to find you make really big improvements while you're apart, and it's even better when you come back together. Unless that enjoyment was overwhelming for the horse. There are some horses that are not used to that level of activation and thinking and enjoyment, in which case that puts them back in the tolerance stage where it's just a little too much too soon, and you're going to get a little bit of a backslide. So I hope that helps you guys think about your progress. And if you do get to go away for a while and then come back to your horses, it's a really fun piece to think about. It's something I really try and set up well before I go on vacation or go out to work and teach clinics. And I always like to see what I've got when I come home. Rhonda says, I've even had to curb my enthusiasm as it was too much for our beautiful Prada. Yeah, sometimes we just got to let these things grow and evolve in the time frame that the horse is ready for it. So thank you guys for sharing tea time with me, and I look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday. If you have things you'd like me to talk about, please write me. I'd love to look at that list and think about if I have a personal story that would help illustrate the answer to some of those questions. Thank you.